Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Marking a decade that turned India into a startup nation, Prime Minister Modi says today's India believes in aspiration and creation, invites young entrepreneurs to invest more in manufacturing and technology. US stands by Iranian people, tells the UNSC all options are on table for President Trump to stop the slaughter. Iran warns it will respond decisively to any aggression. South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol found guilty in first of 4 trials, given 5-year jail term for obstruction and destruction of evidence. On the occasion of National Startup Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the program marking a decade of the Startup India initiative in New Delhi on Friday. Startup India was launched on 16th of January 2016 by the Prime Minister as a transformative national program to nurture innovation, promote entrepreneurship and enable investment-driven growth, with the objective of making India a nation of job creators rather than job seekers. Over the past decade, Startup India has emerged as a cornerstone of India's economic innovation and architecture. Recalling that Startup India was started 10 years ago, Prime Minister Modi expressed satisfaction with the growth of the initiative and he was happy to meet the youth there.
भारत आज दुनिया का 3rd लार्जेस्ट स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम है। 10 साल पहले देश में 500 से भी कम स्टार्टअप्स थे। आज ये संख्या बढ़कर 2 लाख से ज्यादा है। 2014 में भारत में सिर्फ 4 यूनिकॉर्न थे। आज भारत में करीब 125 एक्टिव यूनिकॉर्न है।
The Prime Minister further stated that in 2025, India registered 44,000 new startups, marking the biggest jump in any single year since the launch of the Startup India initiative.
पिछले ही साल यानी 2025 में करीब 44,000 और नए स्टार्टअप रजिस्टर हुए हैं। ये स्टार्टअप इंडिया की शुरुआत के बाद किसी एक साल के सबसे बड़ा जंप है। ये आंकड़े इस बात के गवाह है कि हमारे स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम इनोवेशन और ग्रोथ को किस तरह ड्राइव कर रहे हैं।
PM Modi observed that risk-taking, which was once discouraged, has now become mainstream. He lauded India's startup founders for their impressive confidence and ambitious outlook.
रिस्क-टेकिंग पर मैं खास तौर जोर देता रहा हूं, क्योंकि ये मेरी भी पुरानी आदत है। जो काम कोई करने के लिए तैयार नहीं होता, ऐसे काम जो दशकों से पहले की सरकारों ने नहीं छुए, क्योंकि उनमें चुनाव हारने का, कुर्सी जाने का डर था। जिन कामों के लिए लोग आकर कहते थे ये बहुत पॉलिटिकल रिस्क है, मैं उन कार्यों को अपना दायित्व समझकर जरूर करता हूं। आपकी तरह ही मेरा भी मानना है जो काम देश के लिए जरूरी है वो किसी न किसी को तो करना ही होगा, किसी को तो रिस्क लेना ही होगा। नुकसान होगा तो मेरा होगा, लेकिन अगर फायदा होगा तो मेरे देश के करोड़ों परिवारों को फायदा होगा।
Also present at the event, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal highlighted the journey of Startup India mission so far. He underscored the transformative impact of the mission on entrepreneurship and employment.
2016 में जब स्टार्टअप इंडिया लॉन्च हुआ तो मात्र 400 के करीब स्टार्टअप्स हुआ करते थे। आज इस मुहिम ने एक विशाल रूप ले लिया है और 2 लाख से अधिक स्टार्टअप्स हमारे विभाग में पूंजीकरण कर चुके हैं। अनुमान है कि इन स्टार्टअप्स के माध्यम से प्रत्यक्ष रूप से 21 लाख से अधिक नौकरियां अभी तक प्रदान कर दी गई हैं।
During his opening address at the 18th India-Japan Strategic Dialogue on Friday, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar emphasized on how India prioritizes its friendship with Japan, adding that over the last 2 decades, India has been successful in transforming the ties from economic to a broad, comprehensive and strategic partnership.
India attaches very great priority to its friendship with Japan. And over the last 2 decades, we have been successful in transforming the relationship from what was primarily an economic relationship into one that is broad, comprehensive, and strategic in its focus. We attach the highest priority to working with Japan in international forums.
Further, Dr. Jaishankar said that it was the Japanese Prime Minister who laid the ground for the emergence of the Indo-Pacific as a political, economic and strategic construct, and that the vision for the Indo-Pacific aligns closely with the free and open Indo-Pacific outlook.
It was a Japanese Prime Minister who, in his address to the Indian Parliament, laid the ground for the emergence of the Indo-Pacific as a political, economic and strategic construct. The relationship today sees that our initiative of what we call Mahasagar, which is oceans in a way, and vision for the Indo-Pacific aligns closely with your free and open Indo-Pacific outlook.
Earlier, the External Affairs Minister welcomed Japanese Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi for the 18th India-Japan Strategic Dialogue, emphasizing strengthened bilateral ties amid global uncertainties. Both ministers discussed Indo-Pacific stability, AI, semiconductor cooperation, resilient supply chains, critical minerals, energy, health and maritime security, among other issues. The 28th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth concluded at the Parliament House in New Delhi. Delegates from over 40 nations actively shared insights on strengthening parliamentary democracy during the 3-day conference. Chaired by Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla, the event focused on contemporary issues like AI integration in legislatures, social media's impact on MPs and enhancing public engagement. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had inaugurated the conference on January 15th, emphasizing India's role in global democratic reforms. Delegations from the Maldives, Sri Lanka, the UK, Australia and others participated, fostering bilateral dialogues. The summit underscored ethical governance and institutional trust, wrapping up with renewed commitments to Commonwealth values. Meanwhile, on the sidelines of the 28th Commonwealth Conference, India's Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan held a cordial meeting on Friday with Lord McFall of Ecclewith PC, Lord Speaker of the UK House of Lords. Both sides discussed enhancing cooperation through exchange programs, digital innovation in parliamentary functioning and joint initiatives on global priorities such women's participation, climate action, education and inclusive governance. India's first Vande Bharat sleeper train is set to commence its inaugural run on Saturday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will flag off India's first Vande Bharat sleeper train from Malda in West Bengal. The inauguration will take place at Malda Town Railway Station, which is ready to welcome Prime Minister Modi on Saturday. This launch represents a significant step in modernizing overnight rail travel across the eastern region. The Vande Bharat sleeper train would provide a new overnight travel option between Howrah in West Bengal and Guwahati in Assam. The service will cover prominent districts in both the states and is expected to benefit a wide spectrum of travellers. New and Renewable Energy Minister of State Shripad Yesso Nayak addressed a workshop on introduction and adoption of biomass for green steam and heat applications in the MSMEs. The minister also released a report titled Decarbonizing MSMEs Use of Biomass for Green Steam and Heat Application. He lauded India's renewable energy journey in the past decade and stressed that transitioning energy needs for the MSME sector is essential.
The last decade, under the visionary leadership of our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Bhai Modi ji, India's renewable energy journey has witnessed an unprecedented momentum. Our government's approach towards the bioenergy is comprehensive and integrated. Through initiatives such as the National Bioenergy Program, Satat, Govardhan, and linkage with the National Green Hydrogen Mission, we are building a robust ecosystem for biomass, biogas, compressed biogas, and waste-to-energy projects.
Home Minister Amit Shah inaugurated the third International Kite Festival in the national capital today. Addressing the gathering, the minister said that the Kite Festival will connect people across the country and in the future it can become a national festival. He also urged the Delhi administration and the Delhi Development Authority to form a committee to make Delhi the centre of the Kite Festival for the whole country and to work to expand it and ensure public participation to make it a truly grand celebration. You're watching DD India Live, still to come on the show. The EU-Mercosur trade deal to be signed in Paraguay tomorrow. We discuss the story with our partner station at DW. India's star batter Smriti Mandhana signed by Manchester Super Giants, set to feature in the 100 women's competition.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja. The UN Security Council met in New York over the escalating protests in the West Asian country of Iran. UN officials are urging diplomacy, while the US once again warned that all options are on the table for President Trump to pursue and stop the killings. Iran, on its part, warned that any aggression will be met decisively. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session in New York on Iran amid growing concern over reports that hundreds have been killed during nationwide protests. Demonstrations that began in late December, fueled by soaring inflation, rising food prices, and the collapse of the national currency, triggered a deadly and widespread crackdown with thousands injured and detained. The United Nations urged everyone to walk on the path of diplomacy.
The Secretary General remains convinced that all concerns regarding Iran, including those related to the nuclear issue and ongoing protests, are best addressed through diplomacy and dialogue.
The United States reaffirmed its solidarity with the people of Iran and warned that all options are open to stop the slaughter.
President Donald J. Trump and the United States of America stands by the brave people of Iran. President Trump is a man of action, not endless talk like we see at the United Nations. He has made it clear all options are on the table to stop the slaughter.
Iran warned that any act of aggression will be met with a decisive response.
Iran seeks neither escalation nor confrontation. However, any act of aggression, direct or indirect, will be met with a decisive, proportionate, and lawful response under Article 51 of the Charter. This is not a threat. It is a statement of legal reality.
White House has claimed that Iran has halted 800 executions under pressure from President Donald Trump. With Tehran already under crippling restrictions over its nuclear program that contributed to the economic woes that sparked protests, the US also announced new sanctions targeting Iranian officials on Thursday. Bureau Report, DD India. On to South America now. Venezuela's Maria Corina Machado met US President Donald Trump at the White House. She presented him with her Nobel Peace Prize medal. Machado called it a recognition for his commitment to Venezuela's freedom. Trump described the gesture as a wonderful moment of mutual respect on Truth Social, praising Machado as a brave voice despite previously sidelining her. The symbolic act follows Machado's daring escape from Venezuela and receipt of the prize in Oslo last month. Meanwhile, Trump continues backing interim leader Delcy Rodriguez, who declared Venezuela not afraid of diplomatic confrontation with Washington. U.S. forces seized a sixth oil tanker on Thursday and the first U.S. brokered Venezuelan oil sale worth $500 million that was finalized. On to Asia again. A South Korean court on Friday sentenced former President Yoon Suk-yeol to 5 years in prison on charges that included obstructing attempts by authorities to arrest him following his failed bid to impose martial law in December 2024. The court found Yoon guilty of mobilizing the Presidential Security Service to block authorities from executing an arrest warrant to investigate him for his martial law declaration. Speaking outside the court, immediately afterwards, one of Yoon's lawyers said that the former president would appeal, terming the decision as politicized. The verdict is the first against Yoon in the 8 criminal trials over the martial law decree he issued in late 2024 and other allegations. Apart from Friday's sentence, Yoon faces 7 more trials, with the next sentencing on Yoon's insurrection charge scheduled for February 19th. A senior UK lawmaker has raised strong concerns in the British Parliament over rising violence against minorities and growing democratic uncertainty in Bangladesh ahead of the upcoming national elections. UK Conservative Party MP Bob Blackman called for a formal parliamentary statement on Bangladesh's political situation, minority safety and electoral process, warning that conditions in the country are alarming. Speaking in the House of Commons, Blackman said that the participation of all major political parties is essential for a credible and inclusive election, arguing that The continued ban on the Awami League, despite it commanding significant public support, undermines democratic legitimacy. He described the exclusion of a major party ahead of the February 12 polls as a negative signal for democracy. The European Union and the largest economies in South America have recently agreed on a major trade agreement which is to be signed on Saturday during a ceremony in Paraguay. Lars Holte is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin now. Lars, how significant is the EU-Mercosur trade deal?
Thanks for having me. Well, it certainly is huge if you just look at the numbers. The EU-Mercosur deal actually creates the world's largest free trade zone with more than 700 million people living in those countries affected, which would of course be the 27 nations in the bloc here, as well as Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay. There's also Bolivia, not yet in the group, but likely to join soon. Now, trade between the two sides was worth some 111 billion euros in 2024. And this deal is set to cancel out tariffs on much of that trade, on products ranging from Argentine steaks and Brazilian copper to German cars and Italian wine. Also, looking past the numbers, what makes this deal so significant is also the timing. After all, this is all happening while President Donald Trump yanks the United States out of the international economy. When trade globally is shifting, old alliances are being broken up. Well, here's a new one forming.
All right. What are you hearing from both sides, Lars, now that the trade agreement is finally ready to be signed?
Yes, finally ready is putting it good. The EU-Mercosur agreement has been in the works for a quarter century. As a matter of fact, when this first came up, there was no euro. Well, now European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the deal is, a quote, a powerful endorsement of multilateralism in the face of an increasingly hostile and transactional world. And Brazilian President Lula da Silva called it, again, I quote, a rare victory for dialogue, negotiation, and the bet on cooperation. Mind you, all this comes at the expense of the US and China, the two most influential nations in global trade, but both nations that have become highly volatile and pose at least as much of a threat to other countries as they have been an opportunity for growth.
And yet the trade agreement isn't popular with everyone, Lars. Why are some parties still unhappy?
Well, because as much as growing and improved trade generally helps both sides, there are also some segments where you're looking at kind of a zero-sum game, meaning if one side wins, the other side loses, or at least might find itself in a slightly weaker position. And so it is, for example, with agriculture. Let's start with meat. Argentinian exporters will save tens of millions of dollars a year as the deal eliminates a 20% tariff on high-quality meat. Good for them, but bad news for European cattle farmers who are facing much more competition now. Same with many other agricultural goods. South America really is an agricultural giant, and that continent's exports to the EU will certainly change some things here. Now, to placate EU farmers, the Commission has promised them subsidies to the tune of some 50 billion euros. That helps for now, but it also illustrates the complexity of global trade and the fact that even a good deal also has its downsides.
Okay, Lars, thank you very much for all those updates. Lars Holte joining us from DW Berlin. On to sports news now. Manchester Supergiants have signed India's star opening batter Smriti Mandhana for the upcoming edition of the 100 Women's Tournament. The left-hander featured in 4 editions of the tournament between 2021 and 2024, scoring 676 runs in 29 innings for Southern Brave. Smriti is among the 6 Indians to have featured in the tournament so far. The list includes Indian captain Harmanpreet Kaur, star all-rounder Deepti Sharma, opener Shafali Verma, wicketkeeper batter Richa Ghosh and middle order batter Jemima Rodriguez. The Supergiants also announced the signing of former Australia captain Meg Lanning, who has previously represented London Spirit and Oval Invincibles. So that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live, and you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From all of us here in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.